the corporate world. The place of nightmares, and yet so very real. The people at the top enjoy the high life and live in luxury without much concern over the day-to-day unless it becomes a threat to your profits. So, what are the people that keep the business running? Well, they're subjected to the things of nightmares, which is becoming another cog in the machine. Soulless husks of themselves with the only thing on their mind being work. Some even slip into animalistic states of themselves, further removing them from their former humanity. Despite all this, working at the company known as Sintranet is the dream job for them. Now enter a new employee named Brian Pasternack, who receives the red job offer letter to work at the prestigious company. He is very excited for the opportunity coming from the countryside where he would be considered a lower class citizen. He was even expecting to work on the lower floors with the rest of the lower tier citizens. However, he is shocked to learn that not only is he not on the lower floors, but he is also brought to the top floor where the boss of the whole corporation works. There, he signs a contract, still ignorant on what his new job duties entail. After signing, he eventually learns of the true nature of his job. He has been hired as a hunter, and is tasked with killing the witch that inhabits this corporation and is responsible for not only its success, but the sinister inner workings of the company. Welcome to Yuppie Psycho, a horror game by Baroque Decay and published by Neon Doctrine, where you must navigate these office spaces as Brian to figure out the mystery behind the witch and kill her. Different horrors await on each floor of this corporation, with its dreadful environments full of soulless employees populating them, and various puzzles to solve. However, going even deeper uncovers more sinister things happening in the background, as the corpses of these employees line the floors of these spaces, hinting at something deadlier being nearby. There are multiple endings to uncover in this game, with the recent release of Executive Edition adding another ending and extra content. With its pixel art style, exploration and horror elements mixed in with some comedy and a touch of vaporwave. Is Yuppie Psycho's job offer worth accepting? Is the pay, as well as this game, any good? Let's see what works in Yuppie Psycho in the good. I really love the game's pixel art, both in-game and in the cutscenes, as they both show a high level of detail put into each of them. The in-game pixel art is very reminiscent of old Sierra games with the characters in them, but the environments display even more detail with the things you find in it, from left behind blood messages to hideous monstrosities looking to kill you. Speaking of these monstrosities, I love the different enemy or hazard designs that are featured in this game. You'll encounter many brain-dead office employees, but also certain concepts taken to their most extremes with rabid office employees, HR workers who spit bile acid at you, and even security employees who don a television to their head and use their line of sight to damage you. I also like the cast of characters you interact with, which give the vibe of 80s character archetypes, with the seductive woman who gets what she wants to the arrogant businessman with a short temper. Each of these characters does well to leave a lasting impression, with some characters coming completely out of left field in this game, which added to some of the lightheartedness that went into this game. I like the whiplash this creates in the game's atmosphere, where one moment you're chatting it up with an office co-worker, to the next where you're trying to survive a dire situation where certain death is on the line. It's an unnerving atmosphere that keeps you on your toes, where you won't quite expect what will come next. You will also do a lot of exploration in this game, and I kinda like how the game doesn't always railroad you into the next story segment and allows you to explore around to your heart's content. You'll find that certain areas you've been to will have hidden secrets for you to find later on once you have a specific item or you've completed a certain sequence to make it explorable. Some puzzles you run into during your exploration I found to be very clever in how it was executed. It really makes you think outside the box on how to solve it without holding your hand or making it too cryptic to solve, though there are a few that get a little too cryptic, which I'll go over later. One last thing I love about this game is the soundtrack and the sound design. The sound design adds to the unnerving atmosphere this game brings, with disturbing sounds hiding something sinister in the shadows, with one highlight being the security man you run into being on both the verge of tears and insanity as you approach him. The soundtrack takes influence from smooth jazz and vaporwave to bring tunes that add to the 80s aesthetics. This is a soundtrack you definitely want to have on full blast during a nice long car drive. Even though this game does a lot good, it's not by any means perfect. So we'll be going over all the HR complaints we received in The Bad. I mentioned before how I thought the puzzles were quite clever in their execution with how they don't hold your hand in trying to figure out the answer. Even though this is true, there are some puzzles that feel too vague for the players to fully get. One puzzle in the late game requires a very specific item that you would not know how to obtain or how to put to good use unless you looked it up in a guide. There is also a puzzle that deliberately does not explain how it works and expects you to trial and error it until you get it correctly. In most cases, it's not too much of an annoyance, but it becomes a huge problem when it is the mechanic of one of the many boss fights that are featured in this game. The bosses really drag down the experience when not only you have to figure out how exactly they work, but you also have to judge the hitbox for your character. Due to the game's perspective and character sprites, it can be hard to tell when you're out of range of an attack, leading to moments you intentionally get hit. This gets more annoying since if you die, you're only able to continue from the last place you saved at, or you can load a previous save file, which may set you back heavily. Speaking of saving, you are only able to save at printers in-game, however you will often need 2 items in order to properly save. For every save you make, you will need to use a piece of wish paper that you can find in the environments you explore, as well as being purchasable items later on. However, you may also need ink toner if the printer doesn't have any, which could lead to a bit of frustration if you're unable to save just because you lack both items at the time. Not to mention, since the items are limited, players will tend to be more conservative with how and when to use the items since you don't know if you need it in the future. Another annoying aspect is how you have no control over your saves, where instead of being able to overwrite your previous saves, they just stack on top of each other. This could make loading a previous save an annoying task since each slot gives you very little information on your current progress at that point. Now, with all that out of the way, let's head into the break room for the opinion. Yuppie Psycho was quite the creative and fun horror experience. Its constant whiplashes between dreadful horror and pure insanity really make for a unique experience. It has very nice presentation with its pixel style cutscenes that are well animated, along with great music that invokes the style of the 80s. With its multiple endings and hidden items and Easter eggs, players will want to keep coming back to the office for new things to discover. If you're a fan of Sierra style adventure or even RPG maker horror games, then I highly recommend Yuppie Psycho as it gives you an experience like no other game has. And now it's time for my rating. I would give Yuppie Psycho this grilled cheese sandwich out of 10. Thanks for watching and tune in for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, please check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.